Ah! What's up, gamers? We're here for season 3 of the TPL. We're doing our draft analysis because we got a whole squad, 8 Pokemon this season. And for all you that don't know, we're coming back. This is our first full season, first time we've gotten to draft a team in the TPL. I didn't post any of the playoff games on my channel because I wasn't recording them. They were going up on the TPL YouTube or stream and Twitch and everything like that. And so, if any of you guys didn't know, we won 2 playoff games, and then we lost in the conference championships to Marcus, the Carolina Conkelders, and the Portland Pichus ended up being the champions of season 2, who ended up dropping before the draft this season. So there's going to be a new champion this season, or at least not a back-to-back. I guess Delphin could win this one, but there's not going to be a different champion than season 2, and we're hoping it's going to be us with this team that we've accumulated this season. So the way that I'm going to organize this draft analysis is the order that I obtained all the Pokemon, because there were a whole bunch of different ways that you can get them this season, and I think it's just easier to show what my thought process was when I was building the team, and where my head was at each step of the way. So the first Pokemon to officially join our team was actually one that I picked up during the playoffs, and it never appeared on my channel, but I used it in one playoff battle, the one that I ended up losing. But that Pokemon we decided to keep is the only Pokemon that I kept from season 2 to season 3, technically, and that Pokemon is Vikavolt. So Vikavolt was a Pokemon that got dropped by a different coach during the playoffs, and I saw it and I said, I want to get that for season 3. I was really just picking it up for the future. I dropped Leafeon for it, and I said I want to use Vikavolt next season. I really want to use Sticky Webs, and I think Vikavolt's the perfect Pokemon for that. So, looking at Vikavolt, it's a electric bug type with the Levitate ability, which is really nice because I tend to run teams that are weak to ground, and having a ground immunity off the bat is super helpful. If you look at its stats, you'll notice that its special attack is its highest stat by far. This thing hits crazy hard, but it's not super fast. It does have pretty good bulk. It gets things like Iron Defense and Roost, so it can definitely hang around for a while. But one of the big things with this Pokemon is just how hard it can hit if you invest the special attack into it. And even if you don't, it'll still be hitting really hard. So that allows you to, sometimes throw in some bulk and still be able to hit super hard. So the things that I'm looking forward to this Pokemon, I plan on using it a lot to, set up sticky webs to help all my slower Pokemon so that they can do a lot more damage and not have to worry about their speed. I plan on Volt Switching a whole lot because, it's really nice to get in, to hit a Pokemon with a really strong Volt Switch and then get out into something that can, keep up the momentum. This is a Pokemon that I can see myself Dynamaxing at some point because it does get Air Slash, which, I love Airstream. It gets coverage in things like Energy Ball. And all around, I think this is a really good support Pokemon, and I really wanted to have it coming into season 3. And so this is the only Pokemon I decided to keep from season 2 to season 3. I really enjoyed my team last season, but I figured I wanted a fresh start because I'd gotten a good 13, 14 games in with those Pokemon, and I wanted to try something new. And Vikavolt's something that I've used very limitedly, whatever. I've used it a little bit in different leagues, but I've never really gotten to use it to the potential that I think it has. And it's something that I'm really excited to try out. The next Pokemon I got was a Pokemon that I traded for in the off season, and that Pokemon is another electric type in Lantern. Now, Lantern's one of my favorite draft league Pokemon. It's something that I have a ton of experience with. It's one of my favorite things to use. It gets both Water Absorb and Volt Absorb, which is super nice because on any given week you can have one of 2 different immunities, and it helps you really, fit to whatever you need it for that week. It allows me to, have a lot more Pokemon that are weak to one of these typings, and if you notice, Vikavolt also had an immunity. It's really nice. I enjoy building up immunities, especially with this league where Dynamax, if you can waste a single turn, it's super valuable. And so having a Pokemon that can waste 2 different types of max moves at any given time is super helpful, I think. My favorite thing to do with Lantern, I love bulky Lantern with things like an Assault Vest or Citrus Berry or Leftovers, because it doesn't get great recovery, but it makes up for it in a massive HP stat. And so with something like a Assault Vest, this Pokemon gets super, super bulky, and it's almost always taking a couple of hits before it goes down. It's really nice because it also gets really, really good coverage with the Bolt Beam and the Electric and Ice, which hit a ton of Pokemon really, really well, most things at least neutrally. And it also gets the Scald, which is super nice for burn. And it's actually, it works as a Cleric as well sometimes. I've used it for Heal Bell as well if I have a team that I see that's particularly, affectionate for the Toxic or the burns, which could be, real detrimental for my team. Uh, Lantern doesn't have the greatest offensive stats. I do see myself Dynamaxing it once or twice during this season because its offensive moves or its typing is so good. There's not a whole lot that can take the dual stab of Lantern, and it's only weak to ground and grass, which, if you notice, Vikavolt above us is immune or resist the two of those. So even though they're both electric types and I'm already stacking up on typings, they don't have any shared weaknesses, which I think makes it, less of an issue and something that I'm willing to do even this early. And so, during the before the free agency period, I had these two Pokemon. I was like, I have two electric types out of my two Pokemon, but I need to, get something that can really carry the team that I can build around. And so I ended up trading my first pick, the 29th overall pick, for the next Pokemon that I picked up. And that Pokemon is Komodo. Now, Komodo is a Pokemon that I've never used before. I have zero experience with it, but I'm super excited. I think it's going to be the forefront of my team. It's going to be the highlighted mon of the season. Kind of like Leafeon and Heracross kind of carried me in the offensive department last season. I think Komodo is going to be that kind of Pokemon for me this season. I was really, really drawn to this Pokemon because it has so many different setup options. It can run things like Dragon Dance, Swords Dance, Rock Polish, and it has its own uh, signature move, Clangorous Soul, which at the cost of 33% of your health, it boosts each of your stats one stage, which I think is crazy, crazy good when I can then Dynamax this Pokemon immediately afterward and start boosting my attack even more with Max Knuckles, boosting my speed with Max Airstream off of Aerial Ace. I think this Pokemon is going to be crazy, crazy good for me. It also has three really, really good abilities in my opinion. Bulletproof stops moves like Sludge Bomb, Shadow Ball, and things like that. So it can come in handy. Soundproof is really nice for things like Hyper Voice and Roar, so that I'm not getting sent out as soon as I've started to set up. And then Overcoat can be nice to avoid things like Sleep Powder, and which I can also see coming in handy at different points. This Pokemon also is a pseudo legendary, so it's got those really, really high base stats. I think it's base 600 total, something around there, which is super, super good. It's got physical and special attack, which is nice because depending on what type of set I can run ones that are boosting either way because I can run something like Clangorous Soul with the Throat Spray and immediately have +1 speed and +2 special attack along with all the other boosts. Or I can run something like Swords Dance and Rock Polish. I can run one or the other. And I think this Pokemon pairs really, really well with the Sticky Webs from Vikavolt because the one stat that it's really lacking in is its speed, which is only, pretty average. And so with Sticky Webs, all of a sudden, it's like it's running a Choice Scarf compared to all the Pokemon on my opponent's team that aren't off the ground. So I think this Pokemon is going to be super, super valuable. I see this thing being Dynamaxed more than most of my other Pokemon. And going into free agency, I really wanted to build around this Pokemon and try and, build a team that really complemented this and gave it opportunities to set up. Which I think with, the Vikavolt and the Lantern both having Volt Switch, I think that's another option to, get this thing in a favorable matchup where it can actually start setting up and doing some damage. There's going to be other times, I'm sure, where I bring this with like Stealth Rocks, Iron Defense, Body Press, those types of things. But I think the strength of my team is going to be pivoting around and getting this thing opportunities to try and set up and sweep every week. So another Pokemon that I saw, this was the last Pokemon I traded for before the draft, and following that we headed into free agency, and I didn't have a whole lot of money. I used most of it to trade up and get the 10th overall pick, which you'll see later. But I did have a little bit of money, and one of the Pokemon that I really, really wanted from free agency that I was able to grab was the Gothitelle, which looks like I accidentally changed the font color of this one, so we'll fix that real fast. But Gothitelle is a Pokemon that I'm really, really excited to use because, again, it's one of those Pokemon that I've never used before. And I think it's super, super good in this format with its ability to trap opponents and keep them locked in. It has, I would say, three really, really good abilities in competitive frisk and shadow tag. Now, shadow tag is definitely going to be my most used one because it traps your opponent and doesn't let them switch out unless they're the ghost typing. And this is super, super useful because it allows me to just target one Pokemon on my opponent's team that I think is very, very threatening and just target that Pokemon down, don't let him escape, and just get rid of that Pokemon super, super quickly and easily. Or, allows me to set up on a Pokemon that's trapped in there and can't do any damage to me. Uh, a really common set for this thing is something like Cosmic Power, Rest, and then Stored Power, for example, where you just trap something that's never going to be able to KO your Gothitelle in 3 moves and just keep Cosmic Powering and resting in it, and eventually you'll be able to get super boosted up so that nothing's ever able to kill you. Now, Gothitelle also has two really good abilities that I think are super underrated in Frisk, which I think is great in Draft League because it allows you to see what item the Pokemon has on the opposing team. And I think that can be super valuable because knowledge is everything in draft. And I think that, any information that you can get from your opponent will come in will come in handy throughout the course of the battle. And then competitive isn't one that I see myself using a whole lot, but if one of your stats are dropped, it raises your special attack by 2 stages. So if I foresee my opponent to bring something like Sticky Webs themselves, I can bring this and immediately get +2 speed, maybe set up a trick room and try and use this Gothitelle offensively. It gets pretty solid coverage as well with things like Shadow Ball and Energy Ball, along with its stab psychics, Psyshocks. And it's got a really good special defense stat and defense stat, so it can definitely take hits. And it's something that I can pretty easily switch in, take a hit, and then the Pokemon's trapped in there with me where I can, do whatever I need to with it. Another option is running something like Charm, where I just lower their attack stat super low, and then that allows me to bring in one of my setup Pokemon like Komodo. And so I think this pairs really, really well with Komodo. I can trap in things like Psychic types, which usually don't have any pivoting moves, and I can try and win those 1v1 battles and then open it up for Komodo that doesn't like to fight the Psychic types. Or I can, get rid of fighting types or anything else that, wants to be trying to take down my team. And I'm really excited to use Gothitelle. I think it's a really, really good Draft League Pokemon that no one ever really appreciates, and I'm really happy that I was able to get it through the free agency. The other Pokemon that I picked up during free agency is another Pokemon that I hope is going to be able to facilitate the setup and the sweeping aspect of my team, and that Pokemon's Persian. And so, if you've been following my team in the TPL, Pokemon that have different forms, you're allowed to use all of their different forms. And so last season I had things like Ninetales, where I could use the Alolan form or the Cantonian form. And this time we picked up another Pokemon with those two types of forms in Persian. And so the main reason I picked up Persian was I really wanted a fast parting shot Pokemon. And this was the perfect one for that. It's a great Pokemon because it's super fast. I didn't have anything that was very fast on my team going into this, and I was really, counting on stuff like Sticky Webs to keep my speed manageable. But this provided a really fast base 115 speed on either Persian. And I think it's a really good support. I always love having a dark type so that you don't have to worry about getting just swept by things like Calm Mind Recover, Stored Power shenanigans. And I think that something that gets knockoff, Sucker Punch, as well as Parting Shot is just super valuable regardless. The Cantonian Persian, I'm not going to be bringing as much. I can tell you that right away. It can be nice to run things like Technician, Fake Out, and that type of move, just because Fury Swipes and that type of stuff, because it hits pretty well at a good speed. But I really don't foresee myself bringing it a whole lot unless I'm facing a Ghost type and I really, really need an immunity rather than a resist. But I think the Alolan Persian is going to be super, super nice. It gets the ability Fur Coat, which basically doubles its defenses, which can come in handy a lot because it makes it a much better physical wall. It can switch in a whole lot easier and get those parting shots off, which once again really help facilitate me getting the Komodo in an opportune time and getting it set up. I can see things like bug types trying to come in on this thing and then getting parting shot, and that makes it a perfect opportunity for the Komodo because it'll resist the bug moves. And I'm really, really excited about Persian because it's another Pokemon that I've never used, but I think this speed is going to be really, really helpful for my team. I know last season Whimsicott came in handy a whole lot of times just because it was so fast and it could get off things like the prankster memento and everything. And I think this Persian will work somewhat similarly to that, but with more of an offensive presence with things like Nasty Plot and a really, really good move pool to go with it. So entering the draft, I already mentioned I had the 10th overall pick, and there were a couple of Pokemon that I really, really wanted, things like Metagross, Salamence, but those things didn't drop to me. And so I kind of panicked with my next pick because the thing that I wanted was taken right before it, but that's not important. And I ended up taking Porygon Z. Now, I think Porygon Z is going to be my next big sweeper for this team, along with Komodo, because this thing, with its adaptability, hits insanely hard, especially when you Dynamax and are able to use moves such as Hyper Beam off of it as well to just make it an incredibly, incredibly strong attacker. It already has the base 135 special attack, and then its ability adaptability gives it a 2 times bonus on its stab attacks instead of the normal 1.5. And so all of its normal type moves hit just incredibly hard. I can throw on Choice Specs, Choice Scarf onto this thing, and I can even run things like Agility. I think it gets Nasty Plot. And it also, since it's an evolution of a Gen 1 normal type, it has incredible coverage with things like Bolt Beam, Shadow Ball, and it just in general has a really, really deep move pool. It also gets a lot of the sets. If I really want to, I can run it like a Porygon 2 different weeks because it gets the Recover, the Teleport, the Trick, all of those different types of moves. So this thing can be super disruptive, but it can also, if it gets in at the right time, it can just start firing off moves that my opponent may not have any switch-ins to. I think this is another Pokemon that'll pair really, really well with Gothitelle, because say there's a fighting type on the team that I don't want Porygon Z to have to deal with. Gothitelle's the perfect switch into it, trap it in there, and get rid of it so that Porygon Z is able to fire off more attacks. I think it pairs really well with the Komodo as well, because another thing that Porygon Z doesn't like to take on are ghost types because it can't use its adaptability boosted moves anymore. And so Komodo can just destroy those relatively easy for the most part. Porygon Z also gets a couple of other decent abilities. Download and Analytic are both useful, but I think for the most part, I'm going to be running adaptability almost every week. I did that with Dragalge last season, and Porygon Z functions very, very similarly, except it's much faster. And as Dragalge, I would usually, bring in whenever I could find the opportunity against something slow or something that couldn't hit it very hard. Porygon Z gets in a lot easier, especially with Sticky Webs up. This thing is able to fire off incredibly strong hits, and if Sticky Webs are down, then it'll be outspeeding most of the things they're trying to come in as well. And if it's not a resisted hit, it'll be doing huge chunks of damage to most Pokemon. So I'm really excited to use it. And I think it'll be a lot of fun. With such a diverse move pool, I think there's a whole lot of possibilities. And I think it's going to be just, a really fun Pokemon to use. It's going to be one of the highlights of the season, I think. One of my kill leaders this season, I expect. And speaking of kill leaders, the next Pokemon I drafted with the first pick of the third round is last season's kill leader, Slurpuff. So I believe that's 2 years in a row where I ended up with the previous season's MVP, because last season I had Ninetales, which is the season 1 MVP, and Slurpuff is the reigning MVP, who just so happens to be on our team now. And so I had never really respected Slurpuff, but I watched Eddie this past season, and Eddie absolutely killed it with Slurpuff and showed that it's a absolutely massive threat with the Unburden and the combination of things like Calm Mind or Belly Drum. It can really become scary in no time because it's another Pokemon that, like my Komodo, I think will be really good at setting up and trying to sweep my opponent very, very quickly before they're able to adapt to it or prepare for it. It gets Sticky Webs as well. So now I have a second Sticky Webs user, which is kind of insane because I think there's only like 7 Sticky Web Pokemon in the game right now, and I have 2 of them. I don't foresee Slurpuff using them a whole lot just because it's going to be one of my more common, offensive Pokemon as well. And it has pretty average stats across the board, but when you're boosting those stats and you're throwing in Unburden, this is a really fast Pokemon most of the time, and it's hitting incredibly hard after it's gotten a couple boosts up. If I go for the Calm Mindset, I know Eddie really liked Calm Mind plus Keyberry, so that Slurpuff would get a defense boost and a special attack, special defense boost, along with the Unburden. And it could start draining Kiss to get its health back, or it could Dynamax and hit the Steel types that so often come in with Flamethrower. This is another Pokemon I'm really excited to use just because it has a whole lot of possibilities for setup, and I think setup's going to be the name of the game this season. My opponents, I should probably warn them right now, they're going to need Haze or Roar and other types of moves that can slow down sweeps because that's pretty much what I'm going to be going for every single week across things like my Komodo, my Porygon Z, and my Slurpuff. And the last Mon that we picked up, because this season we have 8 spots instead of 7, is actually a returning face from Season 2. It's one of my Pokemon that didn't get a whole lot of love, but I really, really appreciated having because it's just another Pokemon that comes in and clicks buttons. And that Pokemon is Dragalge. That's right. We took two adaptability Pokemon, two Pokemon that hit insanely hard, and I'm really excited to bring this thing back. I don't think it got nearly as much love as it deserved this season because, it was doing the exact same thing every week, but that exact same thing every week was death. And I think that's going to be huge for us because it's something that I really loved using because it's a breaker. It's another breaker. And the one thing that it hates are steel types. And with Komodo, I think we can handle steel types pretty well. My team does really, not love steel types with my Slurpuff, my Porygon Z, and my Dragalge. But Slurpuff can handle them pretty well with its fire moves. And I think we have enough support around the team to really, take care of him for the most part. But Dragalge, I really like because it's a very solid sexually defensive Pokemon, so I can switch it into a lot of, the more threatening Pokemon on my opponent's team that are trying to do that. But it also hits incredibly hard because, similar to Porygon Z, it gets the adaptability, and so all of its stab attacks are just insanely strong. It doesn't have quite the same special attack stat, but the fact that it has two different stats that it can go for makes up for that, in my opinion. This is another Pokemon. I only Dynamaxed it, I think, once or twice last season, but I could definitely see myself doing it more this season. But I'm probably mostly just me using this as a nuke button because that's what it's best at. It comes in, claims a KO, switches out, comes back in later and claims another KO. That's all it really does. I think I only clicked like 3 or 4 moves with it the entire season. The last thing that it's really nice for is it's a grounded poison. I really, really emphasize drafting one of those every season just because if you don't have it, your team automatically just becomes so much weaker to toxic spikes. And if you notice, I don't have any form of hazard removal. So the fact that I have a grounded poison kind of makes up for that fact in that I don't have to worry about toxic spikes. I still have to worry about rocks and spikes and everything like that, but I only have one Pokemon that's weak to rock, and I don't really see it being an issue just because I'm going to have boots on that Pokemon quite often anyways. And so I figured that it was okay. I did pick up Skuntank at one point, but I ended up dropping it because I had to drop to fit all my Pokemon in the roster space. But I decided Dragalge was just so much better for my team. And this is another Pokemon that's quite slow at base 44 speed, which is super nice because I like to have a couple Pokemon that are slow just to dissuade Trick Room teams, try and give them something to think about because if they set up Trick Room for my Dragalge, then they're in quite a bit of trouble if it's something like a spec set, which I ran quite a bit this past season. But that's everything I drafted, picked up, all my free agency moves. This is our team for the season. I'm really excited for it. It's going to be very, very fast paced. I don't plan on going to timer at all this season just because my team is very risky. We're going to be going for moves, trying to set up, trying to sweep every single week. And I think that's going to be a ton of fun. I think it'll be super entertaining, which is what the big thing is. I don't think we're going to replicate our 10-1 regular season record from last season, but I think we're going to have a whole lot of fun this season. And I hope to do this team proud. There's some huge Pokemon, some Titans of TPL past, and I'm really excited to try my own hand out at it. And I can't wait to see how we do this season. The first battle of the season is going to be in about 2 weeks, so stay tuned for that. And I can't wait to see y'all then. Bye.